Hey everyone, and welcome to Three Black Women and Their White Coach,
a podcast where we have a conversation around navigating race in the coaching industry.
And we're your hosts.
I'm Catrice Stetson, your mixed race internet bestie and serial entrepreneur who's built multiple businesses from the ground up.
And I'm Brianna Lachelle, your biracial nonprofit coach whose focus is on helping support nonprofit leaders and founders create impact-driven organizations that radically change their communities for the better.
Here at Three Black Women and Their White Coach, we dive into hard conversations centered around racial inequity within the coaching space with softness and grace.
Our hearts are to open up these conversations and create a safe space for people to be seen, learn, and create a better, more inclusive environment for all.
So pull up a chair, your favorite snack, and a bevy while you yap with your new biz besties as we work to make the coaching industry a place where we all feel welcome and respected.
In this episode, we're talking about white saviorism, the well-intentioned but deeply harmful dynamic where white coaches position themselves as the solution, the fixer or the hero in the room. We unpacked how this shows up in the coaching industry, how it strips power from Black women and other people of color, and how to shift from savior to actual support. It's not about shame, it's about accountability, awareness, and allyship that actually serves people.
Today's topic, white saviorism, might stir some things up, especially if this is the first time you're hearing that term or seeing yourself reflected in the conversation. So let's start with this. We are not saying that all white coaches are harmful or that helping is a problem. We're not here to make anyone the bad guy, and we certainly don't see Black women or women of color as helpless or in need of saving. What we are doing is unpacking a pattern, one that often hides behind good intentions, but can still cause real harm. Our goal is to open up space for honest reflection and more conscious leadership, not cancellation or condemnation. This episode, like everyone we do, comes from a place of love, clarity, and care. We believe we all have the ability to learn, shift, and lead better. So if you're here with a willing heart, you're in the right place.
So before we dive into this topic, let's talk about what is white saviorism. So the definition is a patternistic mindset where white individuals position themselves as rescuers or heroes for people of color, often without understanding or addressing the systems that created the need in the first place.
Some core traits of saviorism in coaching can look like believing you have all the answers, over-explaining or over-correcting BIPOC clients, centering yourself in someone's healing, assuming that proximity to whiteness equals success, and tokenizing your Black clients. And this could look like, look how inclusive I am.
Now, this one is like a big one for me because I see this concept of white saviorism so much in the nonprofit space. And it can really come from like the missionary mindset, colonization, media tropes. Think of movies like The Help, Dangerous Minds, etc. Things like I'm here to save you instead of I'm here to listen and support you. These are dynamics that create white saviorism, and they lots of times come from a place of love and compassion and like actually trying to support people. But when you don't come with an open mind and with a mindset of like, hey, I'm going to be here to support you and help you because I have privileges that you don't, versus like, oh, I want to be the savior. I know exactly what you need. When you've never had a conversation with them, that's where it really turns harmful. Have you ever experienced this idea of white saviorism? I think like we can all think of really big ideas, but I don't know if you have any more personal, smaller examples that you want to share.
I think that there are so many different types. I think tokenizing your Black clients is always one that I find to be super prominent and that I've experienced a lot, even within the program that we were in, where, you know, it wasn't just me who was tokenized, but it was all these women of color who it was like, look how inclusive and diverse my programs are. And I think that so often what I see from coaches who kind of approach their clients of color like that in this way of like, oh, because you're part of my program, I'm now very inclusive and diverse, like other people of color should join. I think that it takes away, it stands between them and improving the program. It's like, oh, just because just because someone with a different skin tone than I, like in any concept. So, like, this doesn't just have to be white coach, black clients, but this could be black coach, Hispanic clients, where it's just because someone has a different skin tone than you doesn't one mean that you're so inclusive. And I would also look into like what does inclusivity and diversity look like in your booking process? Like is
Mm.
that something that you actually seek out, that you're trying to actively make a program diverse and inclusive, or is it just by chance that people like I think that's always the thing that I see is where it stands in the way of being able to really look at, is this program really inclusive or is it just chance? And then I think another example is like centering yourself in someone else's healing. And I think that with coaching, and there is so much hurt that happens within the coaching industry where people get, you know, burned by a coach and then they go off to someone else. And then I think that so often I also see this a lot with coaches where it's you are the reason that they love coaching again, and they
Mm.
did this and they did that, and like it's you, but like in this healing, there's this true healing process that happens. And I've been burned by several coaches over the course of my online career over the last 5 years, and like all too often, and this isn't just like a race thing, but I think that just like really centering yourself in someone's healing where yes, you have a great program and I joined your program and I fell in love with coaching again. But at the same time, there were also issues that I still had with your program. Like it wasn't a perfect program. And it's not always the coach that makes the program better. I've been in programs where I loved the other women that were in the program, or I just loved the resources where it's
Mhm.
like, yes, sure, you set the framework, you set that up for that to happen, but at the same time, like how much work did you actually put into that, and my experience with that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that you make a really good point where ultimately for me it really comes down to like boundaries and what us as coaches are getting out of being a coach, right? So like I think the intentions that a coach has also plays a huge impact on like how they treat their clients, how they structure their programs. And so I think most people in the world want to help other people, especially women. And I think coaching is so innately helpful in a lot of ways. Even the word coaching itself is like it's saying that you're helping someone do something, right? And I think this is where like boundaries start getting blurred with things like therapy and counseling and things like that, is that coaches sometimes overstep their lane, right? And so I think it's really important that we as coaches and us as clients looking towards coaches make sure that they have really good boundaries and set really clear expectations and have good guardrails. I'll use my programs for example because I try really hard to have firm boundaries. Like I'm really clear about like what I can do as a coach. I can show up, I can provide feedback, I can provide my experiences, I can provide resources, but I cannot make anyone do the work. I cannot make the IRS accept your nonprofit idea. I cannot raise the money for you. I cannot promise you that you're going to have this successful future Red Cross level nonprofit. I can show you how to set yourself up for success. I can give you frameworks and things like that, but I can't do the work for you. And I am not the boss of your organization. I am a partner. And so a lot of times, like, I think us as clients, we give our power away to our coach. A lot of times unintentionally. I can't tell you how many coaching like calls I've had where I'm talking to a founder or a leader of an organization and we've gotten down to like one or two different options and they're trying to make a decision and they're like, what do I do? And I'm like, what do you want to do? And they're like, and they're like, but what do I do? I was like, I am not the founder of this organization. What feels right to you? What choice do you want to make? What feels most aligned? How do you want this to play out? What do you want the future of your organization to look like? What do you think? And they're like, can't you just tell me? I'm like, no, that is not my job. My job is to present you the options and then let you make an educated, informed decision that you feel good about. And that is my role as the coach. And so I think it's so important for us as coaches to make sure that we're in the right lane, so that way we can help make sure our clients stay in the right lane. And that can be really hard sometimes because we have good intentions. Sometimes my clients make choices and I'm like, ugh, inside I'm like, no, don't make that one.
You're like, of
But
all
I
the
have
choices, of all the
all the
choices,
choices.
that
Yeah, but I my job isn't to choose for them, right? My job isn't to tell them what the right choice is. It's to support them and to give them the resources and the information to make the right choice, and then to support them when they make that choice, even if I didn't like it, even if that's not the choice that I would have made if I was in charge. And so I can love them professionally and I can care about them and I can want them to be successful, but I can't make that happen for them. And anytime that I insert myself and pretend that like I can save them, I can save their nonprofit, I can save whatever, I'm doing a huge disservice to them and to myself.
no, and I think it's like that thought of like believing you have all the answers and you are all knowing. And I think that sometimes some coaches, in fear of looking incompetent, lean too
Mm,
far into this idea of like, I am everything and you should treat me as everything. And I think that this just saviorism in the coaching industry, like, yes, this is obviously a podcast where we're talking about race and how that, bleeds into the coaching industry and navigating, the dynamics that come up racially within coaching. But I think saviorism in the coaching industry is so harmful because
mhm.
you are not, when you act as if you know everything, you are doing a disservice to your clients because ultimately there could be someone out there that knows better or
Yeah.
knows right. Like, I'm even going to take it that far. Who knows right?
Yeah.
And I think that I've worked so hard in, especially after my last coaching experience. So, my very first big coaching experience ever was a mastermind where it was a head coach and then a bunch of supporting coaches. And I wasn't really a big fan of how the dynamic was because ultimately I didn't get as much time, even in a group setting, with the head coach as I initially thought going into the program. But then the next big container, which was this last program that I was in, where it was like a big, like, I'm paying multiple thousands of dollars to be in a program, where it was one coach. And like, we, in this program, we had some supporting coaches, but it was more on a quarterly basis that there was interaction with them. And when I look back on that and I look back and I compare, what was it like to have a supporting coach versus what was it like to have a program with all one coach? The program where there was only one coach felt very like, I'm all knowing, and if you look anywhere else, it's wrong. And as I've been building up my own programs as like, and I honestly, I'm going to be totally honest, I struggle sometimes with like, am I a coach? Am I a consultant? Am I a mentor, strategist? Like, there's so many different names and there's nuance to like what each title means. But when I'm supporting my clients, something that I have actively done is, one, make it very clear that I don't have all the answers, but if they ask something and I don't know the answer, I will go look for the answer, or I'll look for someone who has the answer, and either direct them to them, or if it's like where I can just ask a simple question and get the answer and then regurgitate, be like, hey, this is so and so, and I got this. But I think that so often we, as like coaches, can get into this mindset of like, if I don't know the answer to my clients' questions, then I'm incompetent.
Yeah.
And it puts you in this really sticky situation when you then start going down this path of I'm all knowing, because one, then your clients become extremely reliant on you. This is also why I built my business Hold My Mimosa the way that I did, where it's a done for you agency where I'm not specialized in like, I, as an individual, am specialized in Instagram marketing and sales, but that's the thing, Instagram marketing and sales, bread and butter. But if you ask me about SEO, I know some things, but I don't know a lot outside of like the Instagram world. And so building Hold My Mimosa in such a way where you are able to tap into so many different people at one time, but it's not coming from this place of like, oh, like Catrice is all knowing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Catrice has really great connections to the people who are all knowing in a specific subject.
Yeah, definitely. I think this also like plays into this idea of like imposter syndrome that so many coaches can have. And my OG coach that I love to this day, her name is Jess Connolly, and she always tells she at Go and Tell Gals also coach other coaches. Like she has a coaching program that certifies coaches. I'm one of her original coaching gals. And one of the things that she always tells us is that how the way to fight imposter syndrome is not to pretend that you know more than you do. It's not to pretend that you have all the answers when you know that you don't. The best way to fight imposter syndrome is to show up curious and with open hands and with the truth that you don't know everything, but you're willing to be in this with them. And a lot of times, your clients want that more than they want you to know everything. They want you to be honest with them. They want the reality of the fact that, like, oh, there's someone who's 5 steps ahead of me, but they still have 20 steps to go. Like, it's still possible. Like, they're close enough to me that I know that it's possible, but they're also still growing and getting better, and that I'm not so far behind that I could never catch up. Right. And like, that's what we're doing. Like, and I think that's the beauty of the coaching space is that, like, yeah, you're always going to be 5 steps in front of someone, but there are always going to be other people who are 5 steps in front of you and 5 steps in front of them. And that's the beauty of the coaching space is that you get to interact with so many different people who's learned so many new things because they've kept evolving. But when you get into this mindset of that, like, I know everything and I can save my clients because I know the right answer, then one, you're lying to yourself, two, you're lying to your clients, and three, it creates this unhealthy narrative that makes both the coach feel bad and the client feel bad. And so I think just being really honest about your limitations and having actual conversations with your clients. I think that's the other really big point about like white saviorism and why it's so negative is that when we come in with this idea that we know what's best for someone, but you've never had a conversation with them, you don't understand what led them to the point that they are, then your fix is a band aid. It's like, I love giving the example like, if you go to Africa and you help them build new communities and whatever, and you fly in jugs of fresh water, that's great. For the like month that you're going to be there, that's awesome. You get to take your pictures, you get to feel really good about yourself. But then when you come back to America and they don't know how to maintain the structures that you've built, they don't understand where to find more fresh water because all the jugs have ran out, then they're in the exact same space that they were before you got here. So yeah, you've done something nice for a few months, but you didn't create a lasting impact that changed them. You didn't save them, you put a band-aid on an open wound. And so it actually causes them more harm because not only do they not have a real solution to their problem, but now they've become dependent on something that can't last. And then they become even more discouraged in a lot of seasons. And so that's why you have to be so careful about coming in with a solution before having conversations of addressing the actual problem.
I even think that having conversations is also important in terms of like the way in which you talk to someone. I think so often it can, and I've seen this happen where, and not necessarily at me, but for others, and watching this happen to others, where assuming that someone, because of their race, is, for lack of a better term, dumb and talking down to
Mm-hmm.
them when this person could be fully doctorate educated type of deal. And I've been in programs where I don't necessarily think it was a race thing, but it was that, thinking of that coach being like, oh, I'm all knowing. But, oh, just because you studied business in college does not make you a better business owner. You also don't know where I come from in terms of like, I went to college, I have a bachelor's degree, I plan to go back and get my master's. My bachelor's is in human development. Like, sure, I don't have a business degree and I have a business, but also my degree in human development and I minored in psychology. Like, that was just like I just ended up take unintentionally minoring in psychology because I just took so many classes because I was fascinated by it, but I just wasn't sure if I was going to be a sex therapist or not. But I definitely knew I wanted to teach sex education. But like me coming from this background of human development and really understanding how the mind works and through the different courses of life, because also it's, you know, approaching someone who is in their early 20s versus their late 20s is so different in terms of developmentally where they are in life, and that's going to play into business and all these different things. But when you don't really take the time to get to know where someone is and how they are showing up, you could end up like, we're going to say, mansplain to them.
Yeah.
And I think that it really plays into this idea of feeling like you're all knowing and like, yes, it's so amazing you have this degree or you've taken this many programs or you've read this many books or you listen to all these podcasts. But that doesn't matter if you don't know who you're actually communicating with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think something that I would love to hear you talk about, Brianna, just within the nonprofit space and, you know, like very mission based. And sometimes it is something, I'm going to say, traumatic that happens that then it ignites this want for change and kind of pushes people. I know that that's happened for me where something bad happens to me and then it pushes me in this direction of I really want to focus my time, my energy, my money on making it better for others. I would love to hear kind of the experiences, if you have any or know of any, where coaches use someone's trauma or even, you know, racial trauma as their testimonial without like consent, or they kind of tokenize that.
Two things on this. I think it's one thing to use your own trauma and your own story to create like a following to help support a movement. That is very similar to what I did. If you know my story, I talk about it a lot in other places, but the like highlights version is I went through bullying middle school and junior high. It was horrific. After that experience, when I went into high school, an event happened in my hometown and a young man lost his life by suicide due to bullying, and it really like sparked a shift in my life. And because of that, I started a nonprofit that I ran for 10 years. And that's how I entered the nonprofit space. So and a lot of time when I was talking to fundraisers, when I was talking at assemblies, when I was doing any type of marketing, I talked about my story because it was deeply personal and deeply relevant to what we were doing and it showed and how I showed up for my organization because everyone could tell that what I was talking about mattered to me because it affected me because it was my story. And so many people could see themselves or see someone that they loved in my story. But the story was mine. Okay? There's that. I've also seen organizations that will take someone else's story, particularly a marginalized group, and use it to sell. One of the things I've talked about is with some other clients actually is they were bringing up this story to me where they were a part of this PTA type. It wasn't a PTA for a school. It was like this older girls club, and every year they would do like a raffle brunch for single moms of color in like a poor neighborhood of their hometown. And it was mainly a lot of white women getting all dressed and so excited, and they would take all these pictures, and they would take pictures and the moms' faces, and the moms just had to smile because they needed the things that these women were providing them. They needed the clothes or the baby supplies or whatever the case, the food, whatever the case may be. But my clients who were talking to me about this, they were like, I went to one of these events and I'll never forget the looks on these women's face that we were supposed to be helping, how defeated they were, how embarrassed they looked, how dejected that they seemed to be, but they had to be there because they needed what we were providing them. And the only way for them to get access to what we were providing them was for them to sit there and smile and be on display for these white women.
Oh,
And I
it
was like,
hurts.
instant rage. Okay. That is not okay. That is not okay for so many reasons, but using someone else's pain as a marketing gimmick without their consent, without, because, okay, technically, yes, those women consented to be there, but they consented because their only other option was no food for their babies, no place for them to live, no like supplies that they desperately needed. So in that aspect, is it really a choice? And so I think that in like that's a really extreme example for on the nonprofit side, but you can apply the same thing with your coaching, with the coaching industry. If you are working with a client who's dealing with some really heavy stuff and they make breakthrough in that, but they have shared personal details about their life, about their marriage, about trauma that they've experienced, and they thought that you were a safe place and you never disclosed to them that you're going to use their success, that you're going to use their story, that you're going to, go tell other people about the things that they told to you in confidence, you are wrong. Full stop. Other people's pain that they trust us with is not a marketing campaign for us. And anytime that we want to, because sometimes we turn on our business mode and some people forget to people, right? They forget that they are human beings dealing with other human beings. And you can think about like, oh wow, this client just had a huge breakthrough and this is great because this is going to show other people that they can have that breakthrough, and you want to share and talk about it. That's beautiful. But if it's going to hurt your client, or if you're not having a really active conversation and getting explicit permission for them of what you can and cannot share and what they do and do not feel comfortable with, then you're using them to make money. And that's really icky. Like, as coaches, should we get paid for the work that we do and the transformation that we help facilitate? Yeah, we should. But should we get paid at the expense of somebody else's pain and hurt? No, in my opinion, I don't think so. So I think we have to
Yeah.
be really conscious and really respectful with how we're sharing wins and what details of our clients' lives we're sharing with or without their permission. Because personally, even if I had permission from my client who had experienced some type of trauma or something, I'm not sure I would ever be able to share a story that was specific enough that anybody could ever know who it was that I was talking about,
Yeah.
because it's not their business what we did in our coaching sessions, you know?
No, for sure. And even like when you're talking about that fundraiser, I think situations like that, one really reinforce like racial power imbalances, like where you can be a white woman and kind of parade around and be like, look how bad these women of color have it. Like, give me money so then I can give to them. And it also makes it very much about you. Like,
Yeah.
let's be fucking for real. Let's be fucking for real. Like when people are doing that, and it's like tokenizing your black clients, it's tokenizing women of color, people of color, where you know that you are going to get money because you preyed on someone's like trauma.
Yeah.
Like, and you exploited it. I've never heard of this situation, but this like what if this happens just went through my head. But like being aware of why you are diving deeper into something that a client shares with you. If they share like a surface level thing that kind of hints at the idea that there might be a deeper story in terms of trauma and that stuff, like why are you diving into that? Are you diving in because you want to come up beside them and support them and care for them? Or are you like, ooh, if I can get more on this story, this would be great for my marketing? It feels very much like those fake PR tactics. Oh, if I'm going to be philanthropic because it makes everyone feel better about me as a person. But like being very aware of, are you like even looking at diversifying your programs, like are you diversifying because like that's something that you really want and you want to be inclusive, or are you doing it because you want more money?
Yeah.
Like which is it? And there is a difference.
Yeah. And I think that like if you're showing up for the right reasons, then you know what the right choice is, right? Like we all have a gut check. And a lot of times we know when we're pushing the envelope a little bit too far. And I think it's important for us to be accountable to ourselves and to our clients to make sure that we're making choices that are one, like ethical, and two, like beneficial to our all parties involved. And I think that also goes back to like what Catrice was saying earlier. Like if you're diversifying your program like intentionally, that looks completely different than it just like accidentally happening. And so like we can't claim that we're allies, we can't claim that, you know, we coach diverse clients if we're not intentionally having a strategy to meet and support those clients. And that goes back to like previous episodes, like how do we actually show up and support Black women, women of color, people of color in our coaching programs, because it looks different, right? And so I think it's just we have to be so aware. So if you're listening to this and you're a white coach and you're thinking like, oh, okay, what do I do? So we wanted to just like shift through a few things that you can do if you want to lead without like the saviorism mindset. And so like the first one is like shift from fixer to facilitator. Your job is to hold space, not to dominate it. Okay. You need to check your assumptions. Are you assuming a struggle where there's none? Are you assuming like that there's like an intelligence gap, like a financial gap? Are you like under the impression that like people of color can afford you or things like that? Like those are all assumptions that play into how we show up and how we're marketing and how we're inviting people in. And so that's a big one. And the next one is like asking before advising. So even if you mean well, even if you know you think you know the answer, asking them where they're at and why this is coming up for them before you give them advice on what they should do, because it centers around like the actual problem versus like your assumed problem and solution. Avoid extractive storytelling. So don't use people of color, don't use Black women, don't use people's trauma, no matter what color they are, for your marketing schemes, especially without their permission. Like be so conscious, be so ethical, put yourself in their position and ask yourself, would I want my coach sharing what you're about to share? And if the answer is no, then like don't do it. And then if it's really that sensitive a topic, I would let your client review before you post.
No, for sure.
Like safe way and really thoughtful way to make sure that everybody's good and on the same page. And then if for some reason you post something, even if it wasn't intentional, even if you don't think that anybody would know and your client sees it and they want it taken down, then just respect that. Hard stop. Like it's so easy to get rid of a post and pull a retraction than to cost someone like their peace or to make somebody feel unsafe or uncomfortable. And then also just like do the inner work. Don't expect praise for doing what's right. Like, is it nice? Yeah, everybody wants praise, everyone wants affirmation, but you have to actually do the work because you want to do the work, not because you're expecting like a blue ribbon or everybody to sit and clap for you. Because if you're doing that, it's performative and it's not real. No fake friends. Like, let's
No fake
actually do
friends.
it.
No, also in the terms of being performative, like think about, I think that it reminds me, I had a coach who literally said to me while talking about, allyship and everything and being like, oh, well, I've read White Fragility. Okay, great. But you read this book and you're not very much acting as if you even read any book.
Yeah.
And just being able to name drop podcasts or books or speakers and stuff, just because you know the stuff doesn't mean that you've actually internalized that and done like the work for it. And like think about why you're consuming what you're consuming. And is it so then you can go and check a box off and be like, oh, now I can post on my stories like just finished White Fragility? Or are you doing it because like that actually matters to you? Because the things that actually matter aren't things that you feel the need to post.
Yeah. And I think it's like also important that like your heart has to be in the right place. And you not only should you be doing like could you be doing like reading certain books, listening to certain podcasts? Yeah, those are all great. But you also should be talking to and listening to Black people and people of color. If you're only listening to other white people and their thoughts or responses or like feedback for like how they feel about those books and podcasts, you've missed the plot, friend. We need to come back. You've missed the
We're
plot.
lost.
The whole point is to listen to the people that don't look like you and to not be offended by what they say. Like sometimes, even like conversations like this, I'm sure people listening to the podcast don't always like the stuff that we say. And that's okay. You're allowed to not like it, but instead of being on the defense, I think that's a real big opportunity for us to stop and wonder, okay, why didn't I like it? Is it because it sparked something in me? Is it because that I've done that and I don't want to feel bad about it? Is it because I'm feeling guilt? Is it because I'm feeling shame and I don't want to deal with those emotions? And I mean, that might be the answer. And that's okay. There's no shame in that. But like starting to understand where those feelings are coming from and then working through those emotions, that's how real change starts to happen. And so, quite frankly, we don't want performative allyship. We don't want people showing up saying that they're for us, but as soon as they get in a room with other friends with questionable morals and things start popping off, they don't say anything. Do it with your whole chest. If you have a feeling, if you don't want to work with Black clients, if you don't want to work with people of color, like say it with your full chest. That's okay. That's your choice. Other people's choices, other people is going to respond to that choice, and you know there's consequences to every action, but like say it with your full chest. Don't pretend that I'm welcome. Don't pretend that I have a space in your program. Don't pretend that you care about me and how I feel in my life experiences, and smile on my face, and then when the door shuts it's something different. Like show up and fully be accountable to who you are, what you believe, and what you're going to stand for.
No, truly, because like support isn't about stepping in front of us, it's about walking beside us. And if you aren't willing to walk beside us with care and intention, we've talked about this, but being able to have uncomfortable conversations and being able to do that reflection and that work, if you aren't willing to do that, then what you are wanting is that control and to be seen as the savior. Because if you are wanting the flip side where you're wanting care and intention, and you're doing the work and you're really listening and you're sitting with the discomfort because it's not comfortable. It's not naturally comfortable to be like, I've probably said a microaggression, or I probably have made someone feel like they need to code switch to protect themselves from me and my views. Like if you aren't willing to like sit in that uncomfortability, then like Brianna said, say it with your whole chest. Say it with the whole chest. I think they're ready for a heart check. I
Yeah,
mean,
I was
now that we're talking about our chests. Heart check.
like, let's just go ahead and do a heart check. I want to acknowledge this one was probably rough. This one's probably going to ruffle some feathers. This one's probably going to hurt some people's feelings. And for that, like, I apologize that your feelings hurt. I hope that it was enlightening. I hope that it gave you things to think about, things to talk about, things to work through. I hope that you know that me and Catrice come to you with so much love, so much compassion, so much heart, and hoping that, you know, this can be a place where we learn and grow and expand, both us as coaches, as clients, and you as listeners, no matter where you fall on that spectrum, to make spaces better for all of us. So today's heart check, I want you to be thinking about, where are you centering yourself in someone else's story? What would it look like to offer support without the ego, without the strings attached, without finding a way to make yourself feel important or feel like the savior? And also think about, where are you seeing people in your life not listen, not accurately show up, and how can you lovingly redirect them? So if you're a client and you notice that your coach is trying to give you a solution but they don't accurately understand the problem, it's okay to lovingly be like, hey, I love this feedback. I think that I want to go back and explain to you my point of view, where I'm coming from, how things are going. And then I would love your feedback on that perspective, because I think we're coming from a different place. it's not easy. It doesn't have to be like, hey, you're trying to be a white savior and I don't like that. It doesn't have to be aggressive. We can be kind, friend. It's fine.
Kind.
If you want to say it like that, I mean, teach his own. It's your coaching session. But I think there's ways for us to lovingly correct, lovingly redirect, and present people with kind options to show up and give us the support that we need and that we're paying for.
Awesome. And that's a wrap. We're 3 Black women and their white coach, and this conversation's just getting started.
Friends, thanks so much for joining us today.
We've loved getting to spend this time here with you, but don't let the conversation stop here. Drop us a message or connect with us on social media. All the details can be found in the show notes.
Along with some great resources to help you on this journey of helping make the coaching industry more inclusive. Until next time, we're 3 Black women
and their white coach, doing the work, holding the space, and building something better.